G'day and welcome back. I'm Joel Cairns, most folks call me Slate, and you've landed on the 3CIR podcast, where we turn those big, sometimes intimidating topics around learning and career growth into conversations you can take on a jog, in the ute, or while you're boiling the kettle.
And I'm Ryan Delaney. Mates call me Jury because, well, I take my time and I like a good verdict. Today we're diving into something that's honestly changed a lot of lives quietly behind the scenes: recognition of prior learning, RPL. If that acronym sounds like alphabet soup, stick with us. By the end, it's going to feel like a tool you've had in your kit all along.
Quick heartbeat check on who we are if you're new. 3CIR was started by proud Australian Defence Force Army vets. We're built on 5 big pillars: courage, commitment, camaraderie, integrity, and respect. Not slogans on a wall, just the way we operate. We help veterans, emergency services, and everyday Australians translate what they've actually done into qualifications that open doors.
That transition thing is close to the bone for us. I remember stepping out of uniform thinking, I've got years of leadership, crisis management, logistics, but on paper, it looked like I just knew how to carry a rucksack and fill out forms at 3 a.m. You know what I mean?
Oh, the 3 a.m. forms, ancient art. But your point's spot on. Australia's education system is world class. And the question a lot of people whisper is, how do I get recognised for the expertise I earned outside a classroom? That's where RPL slams into the conversation like a rescue chopper on a hot landing zone. It says your skills from work, service, volunteering, or life, those count. Let's prove it and convert it.
So let's frame it plain. RPL is a process that looks at the skills you already have and maps them against the criteria of a formal qualification. Not to make you sit an exam you've done a dozen times in disguise. The vibe is more, show us the evidence you've been doing this, and if it stacks up, you get credit. Sometimes a whole qualification, sometimes most of it with a few top-up units. It's flexible.
And before we lose anyone to jargon when we say evidence, we're not talking a 200-page thesis. Think references from supervisors, job descriptions, training certificates, work samples, rosters you wrote, project plans you led, reports you authored, photos or logs of equipment you maintained. If you did it, chances are there's a breadcrumb trail.
Remember that operations sergeant we worked with? Never set foot in a marketing class, but ran stakeholder engagement, produced comms plans, handled media briefings. He walked out with recognition toward a business and marketing combination because the assessor could see he'd been doing the gig. Different colour uniform, same competencies.
It almost sounds too good, right? And I can hear someone saying, if it's that straightforward, why doesn't everyone do it? Because the process can look like a maze when you first peek in. New language, new acronyms. That's why providers matter. You want someone who can guide you through without making you feel like you're begging for a pass.
Which is why we're a bit loud about 3CIR. We live this. We're set up specifically for transitions, career changes, and skill recognition. We've worked with people from defence, AMBOs, fireys, police, security, construction, admin, hospitality, you name it. And we keep the chain of custody on your experience tight, meaning we map it properly, transparently, and we're with you at each step so you aren't guessing.
Let's break the process down the way we'd brief a patrol. Step 1, a chat, discovery. Do your experiences align with the qualification you're aiming for? That's where an expert eye helps. It's not about forcing a square peg into a round hole. It's about aligning what you actually do with what a nationally recognized qualification requires. And look, we do that initial scoping with people all the time.
Step 2, fill out the application. Don't let the word application spook you. It's basically you telling your story with a bit of structure. We'll ask about your roles, your responsibilities, how long you've been doing them, what outcomes you achieved. And Slate, this next part is the golden rule.
Quality over quantity. I was just going to say it. You don't need 3 different references saying you're on time to work, 1 solid reference saying you've led safety briefings, implemented hazard controls, and audited work sites. That hits the mark for a WHS qualification way better.
Step 3, gather evidence. Think of it like packing your best kit into a single neat bag. If you worked security, toss in your incident reports, your SOPs you wrote, de-escalation training, shift logs where you supervised. If you're a paramedic, patient care sheets with identifying info redacted, training upgrades, rotations you led, QA reports. If you're a project manager, Gantt charts, risk matrices, stakeholder plans.
And don't forget life experience that's relevant. You ran a community event for 500 people? That's project management. You coached the local footy team and handled training plans, budgets, and parent meetings. That's leadership and operations. If it taught you a transferable skill and there's some record of it, that's fair game.
Step 4, assessment. And it's not a pop quiz. This is where a trained assessor looks at your evidence against the units of competency for the qualification. They're not judging your life choices. They're mapping what's there. If there's a small gap, say you've done everything except one specific compliance piece, we'll point that out and you can complete a targeted unit or two. Efficient, no busy work.
The no busy work part is why this works for busy grown-ups. You've got shifts, families, deployments, weird rosters. RPL respects your time, it compresses what doesn't need to be repeated, and focuses your energy on topping up what's missing.
All right, let's talk why 3CIR for RPL. First, experience. We've been in this game for years and we're veterans ourselves. We know how to translate field notes into language the civilian world respects. Second, guidance. From the moment you pick up the phone or tap the online form, we're with you. We help you identify evidence, refine how you present it, and we keep you in the loop.
Third, examples. People often ask, does my background count? We've seen hundreds of pathways, so we can show real cases of how a firefighter built a WHS qualification, how a section commander converted to leadership and management, how a police sergeant aligned with human resources, how a security supervisor stepped into risk management. When you see a path that looks like yours, confidence goes up immediately.
Fourth, transparency. Our assessment approach is open and thorough. If credit is due, you'll get it. If a gap exists, we explain it plainly and give you a plan to close it. No mystery marks, no waiting around wondering if you're in or out.
A quick myth bust while we're hot. Myth 1, RPL is cheating. No, it's recognizing learning you've already done. If you've been performing the competency for years, duplicating it in a classroom doesn't make you more qualified, it just steals your time. RPL validates and standardizes experience.
Myth 2. You need a perfect stack of paperwork. Would that be nice? Sure. Necessary? Not always. We help you identify alternate evidence. Maybe you don't have the original SOP you wrote, but your email to the team introducing it is there. Maybe you don't have a certificate for a piece of training, but your training log, your role description, and a supervisor reference triangulate the same thing. We look at the whole picture.
Myth 3, I left school early so I can't do this. RPL is not about how you went at school. It's about job competence. I've seen people who left in year 10 walk out with serious qualifications because they've been leading teams, managing risk, solving complex problems for a decade.
Myth 4. I don't have time. That one's real. We're not going to pretend life isn't busy. But here's the trade. Spend focused time gathering real examples once and you avoid months in a classroom learning what you already know. Efficiency is the whole point.
Let's give people some lived examples without naming names. We had a Navy cook who thought, all I know is chow lines, but he'd been doing supply chain under pressure, food safety, team rosters, cost control, stakeholder service, induction of new personnel. That mapped into leadership and WHS units with a pathway into hospitality management. He didn't become a chef by magic, and he had to top up something specific, but the backbone was already there.
I chatted with a firefighter, 8 years on the trucks, daily risk assessments, incident command, training new recruits, equipment checks, community education. He was sure he had to start from scratch to get a safety qualification. We matched his experience to a work health and safety framework. He knocked out one compliance unit on a free weekend, and that was the patch required to complete the package.
I remember a police sergeant who transitioned into HR. People think HR is spreadsheets, but it's conflict resolution, performance conversations, investigations, policies, training. The sergeant had conducted reviews, built rosters, ran training days, and dealt with the hardest end of human behavior. That mapped deeply into HR units once we translated the language.
Security supervisors, so many underestimate themselves. You already manage incidents, write reports that stand up to scrutiny, handle customer service under pressure, and mentor juniors. That's risk and leadership DNA. The leap to a formal qualification is often smaller than you think.
And for the civilians in our crowd, hospitality managers, retail leads, tradie foremen, parents returning to work who've project managed a household like a small enterprise, the same logic applies. If you've done the competencies in the real world, let's recognize them.
I want to drop a tip for gathering evidence because this is where folks get stuck. Think STAR: situation, task, action, result. Write down a few scenarios in that frame. Situation: our site had a spike in near misses. Task: reduce incidents by 30% over a quarter. Action: implemented toolbox talks, adjusted traffic flow, added signage, retrained on PPE. Result: a 45% reduction and a commendation from the safety lead. That's evidence gold with or without a framed certificate.
Another tip: take 5 minutes on your phone right now and list the big responsibilities you've had in the last year. Anything that reads like I led, I implemented, I audited, I trained, I improved. Those verbs align with units. Then grab 3 artifacts for each. You'd be amazed how quickly you build a portfolio.
If you're going, cool, but where do I start? Start with the 3CIR site. Explore the RPL section. We've got guides that explain the process in plain English, examples of what counts, and pathways across areas like leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management, and more. And if you like learning by watching, there's a raft of videos walking through those fields.
We also have a team that will hop on a call and talk through your situation. No pressure sales pitch. Just a reality check on whether RPL is likely to get you where you want, and if not, what's the best combination of RPL plus a few online units to bridge it. Remember, sometimes the smartest move is hybrid. Recognize 80%, study the targeted 20%.
Let's address the question of cost and time without pretending to be your accountant. RPL can save you both. You're compressing the time it takes to get qualified because you're not relearning competencies, and generally it costs less than full-time study because it's focused. If there's a top-up, you only pay for the bit you actually need.
The emotional payoff matters too. Validation. The look we get when someone realizes their years in the field aren't invisible. That confidence translates directly into interviews, salary negotiations, promotions. You sit taller because you know your experience is recognized, not just appreciated in passing.
Slate, can we talk about what a strong application looks like without scaring anyone?
Absolutely. Strong applications are honest, specific, and organized. Honest because assessors can smell fluff. If you did it, say it. If you didn't, don't stretch. Specific because details beat generalities. Instead of, I'm good at communication, give an example of briefing a 30-person team for a critical task, how you structured it, what questions came up, and what happened afterwards. Organized because a neat bundle saves your sanity. Label files clearly, group them by responsibility or unit. A little structure goes a long way.
And if you're someone who thinks you're not a paperwork person, that's fine. We'll help you. Seriously, half of our job is turning scattered evidence into a coherent story. You're not alone in this, and we don't expect everyone to speak assessor from day one.
Let's open a loop here for later. We'll share in a few minutes how online study pairs with RPL when you're eyeing a pivot into a new field. If you're listening and thinking, this is great, but I want to move from operations into, say, marketing or project management, stay with us. There's a smart way to do it.
Before we jump there, quick pit stop on awards and badges. We're not a factory. We don't rubber stamp. We're thorough because integrity matters. The point is to uphold the standard while making sure the standard recognizes the real world. If you're a fit, you'll feel that the process respects your story.
And because we get this question, yes, the qualifications you achieve through RPL are recognized. That's the whole reason to do it. You're being assessed against the same criteria as classroom learners. It's the pathway that's different, not the destination.
All right, let's talk pairing. Maybe you've been a squad leader and you want to move into project management in the private sector. Your leadership, planning, risk, and stakeholder skills are already there. RPL might cover a big chunk of a project management qualification. Then you add a couple of targeted units, maybe procurement or formal project governance, online at your pace. Suddenly you've got both proof of experience and the new language companies use.
Or take someone from emergency services stepping into WHS. You've been living hazard identification and incident response. RPL will likely nail most of it. Then you might top up with a legislation or audit-focused unit so you're fluent in the civilian compliance world. That's not a mountain. That's a well-marked trace.
Security folks moving into risk management, retail managers moving into HR, tradies stepping into leadership and management, same story. Recognize the foundation, top up the specifics. And because it's online, you can do it around shift work. Put the kettle on, knock over a module, drive the kids to sport, come back for another chunk. Flexible is the default.
You mentioned earlier the 3CIR videos. Let me plug them again because they're helpful if you're window shopping. Leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management. We've got explainer content across the board. It's not fluff. It helps you visualize, am I heading in the right direction? Is this the field I want?
Some listeners are probably thinking, okay, say I'm in. How do I prepare this week without overhauling my life? Rapid fire checklist. 1. Write down your last 3 roles and the top 5 responsibilities for each. 2. For each responsibility, find one piece of proof. An email, a file, a reference, a screenshot, anything that shows you did it. 3. List the outcomes you achieved. Numbers if you've got them. 4. Call us or jump online and start the RPL conversation.
And put your supervisor or a colleague on standby for a reference. Give them a heads up. Tell them you're going through RPL and that a short specific note about what you did will be more useful than a generic compliment. People want to help, they just need a nudge on what to say.
When you're thinking about which qualification to target, ask yourself this. What's the job title I want to be competitive for in the next 6 to 12 months? Then reverse engineer. Which qualification aligns to that role? We can help with that translation because we live in the job ad jungle daily.
Jury, we should talk briefly about mindset, because RPL often unlocks more than just a piece of paper. It flips the story you tell yourself. You stop thinking, I started late, I don't have the right letters, I'm playing catch up. You start thinking, I've been doing this for years, now I'm going to formalize it and move forward.
That mindset shift is massive. I worked with a single mum who had been coordinating rosters, budgets, supplies, conflict resolution in real life without a title. She went through RPL for business and leadership units, and within a month of finishing, she walked into an interview with calm because the language matched her experience. She wasn't faking it, she was recognized.
Let's circle back to something we teased earlier, the fear of exams. Most RPL pathways don't involve sitting an exam. The assessment is your evidence. If a provider starts talking about a surprise test for RPL, ask questions. The whole point here is assessment of what you've already learned. If a gap requires a learning unit, sure, there may be an assessment for that unit, but RPL itself isn't a gotcha quiz.
Another common curveball. What if I'm from another country or my original training is overseas? Bring it. We'll still look at your experience. If you can demonstrate competency and you can show it matches the Aussie standard, RPL can still apply. We'll guide you on what to gather.
One more, I changed jobs a lot, does that hurt me? Not if you can show continuity of competencies. Multiple roles can actually show breadth. The trick is connecting the dots, which is where storytelling and evidence come together.
I want to talk about pride for a second. Australian workers carry industries, veterans, emergency services, tradies, carers, retail, hospitality, office legends, small business owners. RPL is a way of saying to yourself and to employers, I value what I've put in, and I'm putting that value to work for the next chapter.
All right, say you're listening and thinking, I might be a candidate for more than one qualification. Common. We can help you sequence. Maybe you do a leadership qual via RPL first, because it's a strong match, then you layer a specialized area, HR, WHS, security operations, depending on your career target. Play the long game with smart moves.
And if you're fresh out of service or a big role and you're like, where on earth do I even begin? Begin with a conversation. Tell us your story from the last few years. Wins, messes, lessons will help you map it. It's not a test, it's a chat. We speak your language and we translate it into the education system's language without making you feel like you've landed in a different country.
Little success pattern we've seen. People who keep a simple folder on their phone or laptop called evidence. Whenever something cool or complex happens, they dump a file or snapshot in there. By the time they come to us, they've got a gold mine. Start that today, even if you're not ready to apply yet.
And yes, the process can feel personal. You're opening the hood on your work life. We treat that with respect. Integrity isn't just a word in our tenets. It's how we handle your story, your documents, your goals. No judgment, just partnership.
Speaking of partnership, a quick shout to our assessors. These men and women are trained, experienced, and they've been around the block. They don't hide behind clipboards. They'll tell you clearly what you've nailed and what, if anything, needs a top-up. That transparency stops the anxiety spiral.
If you want to see what fields are hot or simply understand the landscape, watch our videos on leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management. Each clip gives you a feel for the work, the skills, and where RPL fits. It's a great way to make an informed decision while you're cooking dinner.
Let's imagine two listeners. Listener 1 is an ex-Army corporal, logistics background. You've coordinated movements, tracked inventory, dealt with suppliers, managed risk. You're already speaking the language of supply chain and business ops. RPL could recognize a significant chunk and then will help you notch the specific civilian modules.
Listener 2 is a civilian shift supervisor in retail. You handle operations, customer complaints, cashing up, staff training, stock loss prevention. All of that maps to business and leadership units. You might not have seen yourself as a candidate, but you are. That's RPL's whole point. Shine a light on what you've been doing and give it a name employers value.
I want to anchor the big picture. RPL is about momentum. It turns the gear you've earned into a credential that helps you step into your next role faster and with more confidence. With 3CIR, you've got a partner that gets the culture you come from and the destination you're aiming at. We aren't just ticking boxes, we're building bridges.
If today lit a spark, here's your nudge. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take one step, start the chat. Even if you're not ready to submit evidence, let's scope your path. It's amazing what happens once the fog lifts and you can see 3 meters in front of you instead of 0.
And bring your questions. You might be wondering, can volunteer work count? What if my boss moved on? How far back can I go? We'll tackle all of that with you. The short answer, yes, usually. We can use alternate references, and typically the last 5 to 10 years is strongest, but it depends on relevance.
Another small but mighty tip, update your resume as you go through RPL. The process will remind you of wins you forgot. Put those achievements into your CV and LinkedIn. It's not just about the qualification at the end, it's about sharpening your story for opportunities that pop up tomorrow.
Before we wrap, I want to anchor the ethos again. Courage to take the first step, commitment to follow through, camaraderie, because you're not doing this alone. Integrity in how we assess and how you present. Respect for the journey you've taken and the one you're beginning. That's 3CIR in a nutshell.
And because we like to keep the momentum rolling, let's tease next week. We're going to talk about Certificate 2 and why it can be a powerhouse starting point. Certificate 2 opens doors to new beginnings. Maybe you're fresh to a field, maybe you're reskilling, maybe you want a confidence builder that still carries weight.
We'll cover why certificate means you weaken. Certificate 2 is such a smart move, why choosing 3CIR for your Cert 2s makes sense, and what makes our courses industry relevant with experienced educators who speak your language. We'll dig into flexibility, because your life isn't a neat 9 to 5, and how RPL still plays a role even at that level.
We'll talk about building a strong foundation, unlocking employment opportunities quickly, starting a journey without feeling overwhelmed, and the personal growth that sneaks up on you in the best way. If the RPL pathway intrigued you today, next week we'll show you a simplified RPL application at the Cert 2 level, how comprehensive evaluation doesn't mean complicated, and the customized support waiting for you.
Basically, if you're ready for an adventure to begin your journey, that episode is your pre-mission briefing. Bring your questions, bring your ambitions, and maybe a coffee.
For now, if today got you thinking, jump onto the 3CIR site, poke around the RPL resources, watch a video or two, and if you want to swap a story or sanity check your path, reach out. We're here for the chat and the high five moments.
Appreciate you spending time with us. I'm Slate, he's Jury. Keep moving forward, take the next smart step, and remember, your experience counts more than you think.
Catch you in the next one. Let's get you that foundation and open some doors.